Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand as Manchester United take on Arsenal at Old Trafford. Get your predictions in down below. It is a bit of a dead rubber game. You can never say that. There is bragging rights on the table, but Manchester United, their focus is going to be on the Europa League. Real Sociedad, our squad is decimated. The ownership have done absolutely nothing to back Ruben Amorim and give him the tools to succeed this season. He came in to a decimated squad. He came into a decimated team and he's had to work with what he's got. But we're in a position where in the Premier League, there was a thought about relegation at one point. That's not going to happen. We're not going to get relegated, but we're also not going to get any form of European football through the Premier League. It kind of is just a nothing season in the Premier League for Manchester United in the month of March. It is frustrating. And with Arsenal, once again, they've bottled the title. They've bottled it. They're out of the title race. Liverpool are going to win it. Of course, they want to finish as strong as possible. You want to finish second. You don't want to finish third. But there's been iconic Manchester United versus Arsenal games in the past, and this one just feels as if there's not really much on the line apart from bragging rights. However, Manchester United's team is decimated. The squad is decimated. We have injuries and we don't want to be in a situation where we get absolutely battered. We don't want that, because at the end of the day, the history books in the future, they wouldn't say Manchester United lost 6-0 because they had a decimated team. It was midway through Ruben Amorim's first season and we were focusing on Real Sociedad in the Europa League. It will just have that scoreline, and we don't want that there. We don't want the history books to show Arsenal battering Manchester United. We've had that in the past where we've battered Arsenal 8-2. We don't want it for Manchester United. So what team does Ruben Amorim select? What do you go with? I do think you have to make rotations in this game. As good as Arsenal were midweek against PSV, and they will be going out with a full strength side because they want to get as many points as possible in the Prem, and talk about dead rubbers at the Emirates against PSV, the 7-1 up. They're going to rotate players on that game. They're going to be going full strength at Old Trafford because they're going to smell blood and they're going to feel like they can come here and get a really good result. That is a confidence booster for the rest of their season. So they are going to start a strong team. How much do you rotate if you're Manchester United? Well, I'm looking at it. We couldn't even fill our bench against Real Sociedad. We've got injuries left, right and centre. Nobody's back for this game. Potentially Harry Maguire, potentially Manuel Ugarte. But apart from that, Ruben Amorim was saying Ahmad might be able to come back right at the end of the season. Kobe will be back, but not yet. Mount will definitely be back, but not yet. Maguire and Ugarte is touch and go. Well, if it's touch and go, you don't risk them, do you? All of our focus has to be on that Old Trafford tie against Real Sociedad. So what rotations do you make? Can't make too many because you don't want to get battered, but how much do you trust our defensive structure, our defensive setup? Some players are just going to have to play. I mean, I look at players that are being heavily criticised, Diogo Dalot, Bruno Fernandes was criticised, even though he's been getting Manchester United out of jail on numerous occasions. He has been criticised for his performances, and Roy Keane criticised him as a captain, but these are players that having to play game after game after game after game. In the cup against Fulham, it wasn't just a 90-minute game. It then went to extra time. We went to penalties. Our squad, we've got no depth. They've had to play minute after minute. Rasmus Højlund's not had a goal in 18 games, yet he's still starting week after week after week because we don't have anybody else. So there is going to be some players that still have to start in this 11, but I would be heavily rotating. My starting 11 would be Andre and Arna in goal, because it's got to be. Bayern Day and Heaton are injured. It's the same old story I say every week. My back three, I would start Aiden Heaven against his old club. I know in pre-season for Arsenal, he did look a little bit shaky, but I thought when he came on, and it was only a small portion of the game, when he came on against Fulham, I thought he looked really calm, collected and confident. I really like what I saw from him. And I just think our centre-backs are so crucial, especially on Thursday, and we cannot risk injury. Mazraoui, not only is he fasting through Ramadan, so that's obviously going to take a toll on him and his body. He's playing every single minute for Manchester United, and he's been a fantastic player for Manchester United this season. And I use that term reluctantly because to be fair, I'd argue no player for Manchester United has been fantastic, but Mazraoui's probably been one of our best players and most reliant players this season. And he has had a couple of knocks where he's had to come off. He had one on his knee a little bit ago. I don't want to risk him because I think he's so important to this back three, not only as a centre-back, which I feel like is his strongest position in this Amorim setup, but if you need him to play wing-back as well, he's someone that has to come in there. So Mazraoui, I think, needs a rest ahead of the game on Thursday. So Mazraoui, for me, needs to go to the bench purely to rest him. So, like I was saying, Onana, Aiden Heaven, I'd probably put Maguire if he's back fit in there. If he's not, wouldn't risk him, and you'd go with De Ligt as a central centre-back. Just to give Aiden Heaven needs someone with a bit of experience, either a De Ligt or a Maguire in there. And then I'd have Victor Lindelof. That's who I would go with. I wouldn't be starting Victor Lindelof against Sociedad. He is back fit now. Play him. He's got experience. He's a senior player. He's played against Arsenal before. He can do a job. Get Victor Lindelof in there. Then my wing-backs, Dallow's got to play because physically he's very capable, and as poor as his form's been, touch wood, he's not injury prone at all. He's just consistently fit, and we know he recovers well, we know he trains well, he looks after his body, so he starts at wing back. I would actually give Harry Armas a run out. I would start him. Dorgu is banned. He got that red card. He can't participate. I don't want to play Mazraoui that much because I feel like he needs a rest. That I think, you've got to promote youth. Old Trafford's going to be bouncing. Old Trafford is not going to put too much pressure on these youngsters. We're going to be bouncing because of the protests, having our voices heard. And to see youngsters in the starting lineup that have shown that they are ready to play for Manchester United, I think it'll give the fan base a big boost. And I think Harry Armas has been one of them that's been knocking on the door for a while. Ten Hag didn't think he was quite ready, despite the fact he did well in pre-season. And Ruben Amorim hasn't fancied him yet, but he did travel to Sociedad, and he did come into the side when we travelled to Spurs earlier on this season under Ruben Amorim when we're under it from injuries. So Harry Armas is teetering on the edge of getting minutes. I would start him at left wing back. I think he would suit this system. Maybe not so strong defensively, but technically really good on the ball and has that burst of pace. I really like him. I would start him. My two midfielders would probably be Casemiro and Collier. I think they've got to play. We've not got anybody else. Collier's back. Get him a start here. Get his fitness up for that Sociedad game. I think he's going to be an important player from now until the end of the season for us. You need legs in that midfield dealing with Arsenal's players. My two tens is much as these two tens don't have much pace between them, and it makes the midfield quite immobile, I would start Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes. Bruno's going to start as captain. Christian Eriksen's got to have a start in this game because, like I said, rotating for Sociedad. Joshua Zirkzee looked absolutely dead on his feet. He's been one of the shining lights. I think he's grown in confidence, and he's one of the positives to take out of Manchester United at the moment. I really am liking Joshua Zirkzee. I think he's a baller. I think he's a really good footballer. I think there's, of course, things he's got to improve, but I think he's shining in that Man United side. But he has played a lot of minutes, and he has looked tired. Alejandro Garnacho is another one who looked tired. Ruben Amorim said himself that he had a knock like a week ago, so you don't want to risk that. Andy took him off against Sociedad because he wasn't doing the defensive work, because he looked tired. Give him a rest. Give him a rest. Christian Eriksen and Bruno are more than capable of playing. Like I said, of course it'd be nice to win this game. Of course it would be. But I think we've got to get our defensive structure right, pack the midfield out, ensure that Arsenal don't batter us, score as little goals as possible, ideally them not score. And Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen are capable of doing that from the 10 positions. Yes, there's not much on the counter-attack, but you're in a situation where you can bring people on maybe later on in the game. Just try not to concede. Probably going to be a bit of a boring game, but that's how I'd go about it, because our season rests on the Europa League. That's the most important bit. Just survive Arsenal, as Ruben Amorim said, even if it's a 0-0, even if it's a 1-0. Survive. Even a 1-0 to Arsenal. I don't want to lose, but survive Arsenal. Don't get battered. And put all of your eggs in that Europa League basket, because that's going to get us Champions League. That's a cup that we can win. We're not going to win the Prem. We're not going to get Europe out of the Prem. It's just bragging rights. That's all it is. And as good as that is, and as much as you want United to win every game, our track record over the last few weeks has been poor. Our performances have been poor. Our form at Old Trafford has been poor. So we've got to focus on that game. We really do. And our players have looked tired. They've looked dead on the feet, and they've been playing a lot of minutes. The squad is decimated, like I said. So yeah, as much as it doesn't really give you much pace, Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen, they're capable. I'd also start CHIDO Obi against his old club. He deserves it after his cameo against Fulham. Højlund's been playing a lot of minutes. Højlund's Højlund, Xerxes are the only strikers available to play in the Europa League game. Chido is ineligible, we know this. Start him against his old club. He'll have the bit between his teeth, he'll be feeling confident after that cameo against Fulham. He did create his own chances, he got 3 big chances in 52 minutes to Rasmus Højlund's 3 big chances in 22 games. Like, he will be feeling confident. And yes, it's a big ask against Arsenal's centre-backs. It is a massive ask. But like I said, he could probably miss an open net. He could probably miss an open net, and the United fans would, well, I know they would. They'd still back him. They'd still encourage him. We want to see youth get a chance. We want to see players, fight for this badge and who have nothing to lose, kind of get given that opportunity. And based on performances this season, how much worse could it get? Chido came on and showed that he was ready to play. He got his opportunities. He nearly scored. He made Leno work. He bodied Calvin Bassey, who's a great centre-back. Like, give him an opportunity. So I would rotate. There's also the argument that if we do manage to get a win against Arsenal, it could give us a huge boost, and confidence is massive in football going into that Europa League game. But that's the risk you take, and I think we have to protect players and we have to protect them from injuries, considering how thin we are on the ground already. My score prediction for this game, I would like to be more positive, I'd like to be more optimistic, but I'm going to go with a 1-0 to Arsenal, sadly. I just don't see us scoring. I think Arsenal have too much for us defensively, and I can see us, even though they beat PSV 7-1, in the Premier League, when I've watched them recently, they don't really have much goal threat. They've had Mikel Merino playing up front, they don't have a striker. Ethan Nwaneri obviously is a huge talent. Miles Lewis-Skelly's been looking good from left-back, another youngster that they have. Odegaard had a really good performance against PSV, but that's once in a blue moon. He's not really having a great season. By his standards, I still think he's a very good player. So I don't know if they'll trouble us that much in front of goal, famous last words, but I do think they'll probably nick a win. I do think that, and to be honest, if they do, it's not the end of the world for us as much as I want to win. The main thing for me, our season, is do or die in the Europa League. To play in the Champions League next year for Ruben Amorim and this team would just give us a massive boost in the summer. So that's the most important thing. Get your score predictions in down below. I'm just looking at the team that Arsenal could put out. Yeah, Chido Obi against Gabriel and Saliba. That could be a long day. I saw Raya was hitting it long a lot against PSV in that game, and that could add pressure towards us. Our centre-backs have got to be on it. Maybe you go strong from the defensive structure and then rotate a little bit more going forward, but we've not really got too many options. Get your comments in down below what you would do. Remember, the protests against Arsenal at Old Trafford, have your voices heard. Do it in a respectful way, of course, but get your voices heard. The fan base deserves to have their voices heard, especially considering how Manchester United is currently being ran. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, hit a like on the video, and come on, Manchester United.